The Discovery ship cut through the black void of space with steady purpose. Captain Jake stood at the viewing window, looking at the massive station that hung ahead like a jewel catching starlight. The Empire's primary station was not just big, it was enormous. Rings of metal and crystal spiraled around a central sphere that glowed with blue light. This was the heart of a civilization that had ruled the stars for thousands of years. Jake had been to many alien stations. He had seen wonders that would have seemed like magic to his ancestors, but this place was different. This place made him feel small. Earth's technology was only 50 years old in space. They had been building and conquering for longer than human history. The gap between them felt like the gap between gods and insects. The radio crackled. A voice spoke with perfect English, smooth and cold. "Discovery, you are cleared to dock at Platform 7. Welcome to the Empire." Jake pressed the button. "Thank you for having us. We are honored to be here." The docking process took 30 minutes. Jake watched as thick metal arms locked onto his ship. The station spun slowly and gravity pulled hard. When the artificial gravity stabilized, Jake felt like he weighed twice what he should. Gravity was stronger than Earth's. His bones would ache before the week ended. He gathered a small team. Captain Marco, his second officer, Dr. Lisa, the science specialist, and Lieutenant Hayes, his security chief. They wore the blue uniforms of Earth's Space Force, simple and practical. When the docking tube sealed and the airlock opened, they stepped into the station. The corridor was wide enough for 6 people to walk side by side. The walls were smooth crystal that reflected their movements back at them in strange, fractured ways. Lights that had no visible source flooded the space with white brightness. The temperature was cool. Everything felt wrong in a way that made Jake's skin prickle. Then they appeared. They were nothing like humans. They stood 8 feet tall. Their bodies were made of crystalline structures that caught light and threw it in 1,000 directions. Some were deep blue, some were pale white. Some held hints of purple and green within their transparent forms. They moved with perfect grace, each step precise and controlled. When they spoke, it was like listening to chiming bells, but the station's translator turned their words into English. A figure stepped forward. She was different from the other. Her crystal form was lighter, almost silver, and she moved with a different kind of grace. When she spoke, her voice was softer than the others. "Captain, I am Princess. My father, Emperor, wanted me to greet you personally. Welcome to our empire." Jake bowed slightly. It was a human gesture, not a one, but he wanted to show respect. "Your Highness, thank you for the invitation. We are grateful to be here." Tilted her head. The light caught her crystal form and scattered into colors. "You seem nervous, Captain." Jake smiled. "I am. Your station is magnificent. Your people are advanced beyond what we can match." For a moment was quiet. Then she said, "Come, my father is waiting." They walked through long corridors. Guards followed, their forms too large and powerful to ignore. The station around them was a masterpiece of engineering. Everything worked perfectly. Nothing made unnecessary noise. Nothing was out of place. It was impressive and also deeply unsettling. It showed a civilization that had perfected everything except perhaps the ability to change. The throne room was vast. The ceiling rose 5 stories high. A clear crystal throne sat at the far end, and on it sat Emperor. He was the largest Jake had seen. His crystalline form was so dark it was almost black, and he seemed to pull light into himself rather than scatter it. When he spoke, his voice filled the room like thunder. "Human, you come to my empire asking for trade, for partnership. Do you understand what you are asking?" Jake stepped forward. "Yes, Your Majesty. We understand that Earth is young and your people are ancient, but we believe both our civilizations can benefit from trade, from knowledge sharing." The Emperor rose. "You are small, you are weak. Your ships are slow toys compared to ours. Your weapons could not penetrate our shields. Your knowledge means nothing to us." The words were harsh, but Jake heard something beneath them. Not anger, testing. The Emperor was taking his measure the way a scientist measures an object under a lens. "You are right," Jake said. "We cannot match your strength or your technology. We are young. But perhaps that is why we should trade. We bring something different, another way of thinking, another way of solving problems." Emperor stared at him for a long moment. Then he said, "You think differently because you are weak and foolish. But I will grant you an opportunity to prove your value. In 3 days you will face our greatest warrior. His name is, he has not lost a battle in 300 years. If you defeat him, I will give humanity what you ask. Full trading rights, a seat in the Imperial Council, everything." Jake felt his stomach drop. This was not what he had come for, but refusing would be worse than losing. "I accept." Watched him as he spoke those words. And for just a moment, Jake saw something in her crystal form. It might have been hope. The first night in the station, Jake could not sleep. His room was comfortable. The bed was firm. The walls showed a view of space that was beautiful and terrible, but his mind would not rest. 300 years without a loss. What was he thinking, accepting this challenge? He did not know that in another part of the station, Princess was also awake. She was watching data flow across her personal screens. Information about human biology, human history, humans fighting and losing and fighting again despite terrible odds. She was beginning to understand something her people had forgotten long ago. They were strong, but perhaps strength was not the only thing that mattered in this universe. Perhaps there was value in weakness too, in the drive to survive despite everything. 3 days was not much time, but Jake was about to teach the Empire a lesson about underestimating the human species. Jake did not waste time. He had 3 days to prepare for a fight he could not win using normal methods. He knew that. The numbers were against him in every way. He was smaller, weaker, slower, had 3 centuries of combat experience. Jake had 20 years in military service and decent hand-to-hand training. It was like asking a human to fight a tank using only fists. But tanks had weaknesses. Everything had weaknesses. Jake just had to find. The station had a training facility. It was a huge chamber with walls of crystal and floor of smooth metal. Jake requested access, and they granted it without question. They did not believe a human could pose any real threat. Their confidence was useful. It meant nobody watched him closely. Dr. Lisa helped him think through the problem. She was sitting in the observation room, drinking something that looked like coffee but tasted like dirt and minerals. She had a data pad in her hands showing biology. "Their strength comes from their crystal structure," she said, pointing at diagrams. "Look here. Their molecular density is 50 times greater than human muscle, but there is something interesting." She zoomed in on a section of crystal. "They are not solid all the way through. They have a lattice structure. It is beautiful engineering, but it also means they are not as heavy as they would be if they were completely dense. They can move quickly despite their mass." "But they still have a center of gravity," Jake said. He was moving through the training room as he spoke, feeling the weight of gravity pulling on his bones. "And if they have a center of gravity, it can be moved." "Yes," Lisa said, "but you cannot move their center of gravity. They are too strong. You cannot push them over." Jake nodded. He already knew that. He was thinking about something else, something that had shown him on a display screen when they toured the station. The electromagnetic generators. Every part of the station used them. They powered everything. The lights, the gravity, the shields. What happens to their crystal structure if they are exposed to strong electromagnetic fields? Jake asked. Lisa stopped drinking her dirt coffee. She looked at him. "Where are you going with this?" "Just answer the question." Lisa worked on her data pad for 10 minutes. Then she looked up. "This is interesting. Their crystal structure is aligned by natural electromagnetic fields. Every is like a living magnet. Their lattice structure aligns itself to match the magnetic field they are in. It helps them move and fight. It is part of their nervous system, basically." "So if the field becomes chaotic?" Jake asked. Then their nervous system would become chaotic too. They would lose coordination, move wrong, fall. But Jake, this is dangerous territory. The electromagnetic fields in the arena are stable. They would not become chaotic on their own. Jake smiled. They would not need to. If I could force into one of the maintenance corridors where the fields are not regulated, his system would start to fail. He would slow down, become confused. That is brilliant, Lisa said. That is also probably cheating. The challenge was to beat. It said nothing about how. That night Jake found something else. He was studying the combat data from past 300 years of fights. Every fight was the same, would engage the opponent, would use superior strength and technique. The opponent would lose. The same pattern repeated 300 times. Had never faced an unpredictable enemy. He had never faced someone who did not follow the warrior code of direct combat. He had never fought someone willing to use tricks and traps. The next day, Jake requested a meeting with Princess. They granted him access to her chambers, a crystal room that overlooked the void of space. When she entered, her crystalline form caught the light and scattered it like diamonds. "Captain," she said, "I did not expect you to ask for me." "Your Highness, I need information. I need to understand. What does he fear? What makes him lose his focus?" Was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Fears nothing. He is a perfect warrior. That is his weakness." "How is being perfect a weakness?" Jake asked. "Because perfect warriors never need to adapt. They never need to improvise. They never need to think beyond the next strike, the next block. They are like the station itself, Captain, beautiful and efficient but unchanging." Jake sat down. "Tell me about combat, the rules, the code." Explained for an hour. Combat was about honor, about strength and technique, about following the ancient traditions, about facing your enemy directly with no tricks or deception. The most shameful thing a warrior could do was win through manipulation or environmental advantage. "Then I will beat him by breaking those rules," Jake said. Looked at him with something like wonder in her form. "Yes, I think you might, but understand, Captain, if you win using methods that violate the code, my people will not accept your victory. My father will declare the challenge void. You will have nothing." "Unless acknowledges my victory," Jake said. "Does he matter enough?" Among warriors, his acknowledgement matters more than the Emperor's opinion. If bows to you as the victor, the code is satisfied. Jake stood up. "Then I have 3 days to prepare the impossible. Thank you, Your Highness." He was walking toward the door when spoke again. "Captain, I have studied human history extensively. Your people have never been the strongest, never been the fastest, yet you survive and thrive in a universe that is hostile to you. I wonder, perhaps that is what the Empire has forgotten. Perhaps we have become so strong that we forgot how to be resilient." Jake paused at the door. "Your Highness." "Good luck, Captain. I hope you prove me right about the value of humans." That night, Jake trained in the gravity of the station. He worked with Marco and practicing moves that used force against itself. How to make an opponent's own strength work against them. How to move in patterns that seemed random but were calculated. How to think 3 moves ahead instead of 1. His body ached. The gravity was punishing, but his mind was clear. He knew what he had to do now. He knew how it would fall. In 36 hours, Jake would stand in an arena before thousands of. He would face a warrior who had not lost in 300 years, and he would show the galaxy that human ingenuity was worth more than ancient strength. The arena was a sight that would stay with Jake forever. The entire chamber was carved from a single piece of crystal that rose 1,000 feet high. The walls were transparent, showing the void of space beyond. Thousands sat in seats that spiraled up the sides, all of them waiting to see their greatest warrior crush a pathetic human. Jake stood at the entrance, wearing simple fighting clothes that Marco had modified with special padding made from the station's hull material. It would not stop a serious blow from. Nothing could. but it might reduce the damage enough to keep him conscious. The crowd was enormous. Jake had not expected so many witnesses. Everyone on the station had come to watch this. This was entertainment for them. This was the day they would see their champion destroy a lesser being and prove once again that the Empire stood above all other civilizations. In the highest seat, Emperor sat on a throne of dark crystal. To his left was Princess. She was looking at Jake, and her crystalline form was bright with something Jake could not quite identify. The announcer's voice boomed across the arena. It said something in the language, and then the translator picked it up. The human challenges our champion. The human believes it can fight and survive. We will see if the human can even survive the first exchange. The crowd roared with laughter. Then the gates opened and walked into the arena. Nothing in Jake's training had prepared him for the reality of. The data had shown him the specifications. Was 9 feet tall, weighed 800 pounds, had been in 300 fights, but seeing in person was different. The warrior was beautiful and terrible. His crystalline form was deep blue, almost black, and it caught the light in ways that made him seem to glow. His body was perfect, not a single flaw or crack. 300 years of fighting, and he had never been damaged. His movements were smooth and economical as he walked to the center of the arena. When saw Jake, something changed in his form. It was subtle, but Jake noticed it. The light reflected differently for just a moment. It might have been surprise, or perhaps amusement at how small the human was. The announcer spoke again. The challenge begins now. Victory is achieved when one combatant can no longer fight, when one combatant falls and cannot rise. Let the battle commence. A loud horn sound filled the arena. It echoed through the crystal chamber and out into the void beyond. Moved. Jake had studied fighting style extensively. Fast and direct. Would come at him with overwhelming force. Would use strikes that were calculated to end the fight immediately. The champion did not believe in prolonging battles. He ended them with precision. His fist came at Jake like a meteor. Jake dove to the side. The punch hit the crystal floor where he had been standing. The floor cracked. Not broke, but cracked. Deep cracks that spider-webbed out from the impact point. The crowd gasped. One punch and had damaged the arena floor. Everyone understood what that meant. If that punch had connected with Jake's body, Jake would be dead. Turned and came again. This time it was a backhanded strike. Jake dropped and rolled backward. The strike passed above him and hit the floor again. More cracks. The arena was being marked by his power. Jake ran. He did not fight back. He did not attempt any attacks of his own. He simply moved. He kept moving in patterns that seemed random but were not. He was moving toward the eastern section of the arena, toward the maintenance corridor access point that Lisa had shown him on the station schematics. "Run, little human," called out. His voice was like the sound of wind through a canyon. "Run until you have no energy left, then I will end you." Jake did not respond. He focused on his breathing, in and out, calm and steady. His heart was hammering in his chest. His muscles burned from the heavy gravity, but his mind was clear. Pursued, the champion did not run faster, but his stride was longer. With every step, he closed distance. Jake had maybe 20 seconds before caught him. Then Jake turned sharply and headed directly at one of the electromagnetic field generators that ringed the arena. The generator was housed in a crystal column that rose from the floor. It was not part of the official fighting space, but it was not forbidden either. Followed without hesitation. The champion was confident that no matter where Jake ran, the outcome would be the same. Jake ducked under the field generator and came up on the other side. As he moved through, he felt the change in the electromagnetic field. It was stronger here, more chaotic. The scanner Lisa had given him showed electromagnetic fluctuation at levels beyond normal. This was exactly where he wanted to be. Pursued, but when the warrior passed through the field generator area, something happened. His movements became less precise. His stride lost its perfect rhythm. The blue light within his crystalline form flickered and became unstable. For the first time, made a mistake. His next step was too long. His body tilted. For just a moment, his center of gravity shifted too far forward. Jake did not hesitate. He moved in fast and struck's arm with a blow aimed at the specific joints that Lisa had identified as vulnerable. Grunted, it was a sound of pain. The crowd fell silent. In 300 years, nobody had heard make a sound of pain. The warrior recovered quickly. His crystalline form stabilized as he moved back to the main arena where the electromagnetic fields were normal. But now he understood something. This human was not just running. This human was fighting. This human was using methods that violated every principle of combat. Attacked again, but this time with less certainty. Jake continued his pattern. He would run. He would lead back to the chaotic electromagnetic field. He would strike. He would run again. Each time the field disrupted its perfect form. Each time Jake struck at vulnerable points. By the fifth exchange, small cracks appeared on its crystalline surface. Hairline fractures that caught the light, roared with rage. This was impossible. A human was damaging him. The crowd watched in silence. Some of them were beginning to understand what Jake was doing. Some of them were angry. Some of them were fascinated. Jake felt something break in his own body. A rib, maybe. The pain was sharp and immediate, but he ignored it. He had to keep moving. He had to keep forcing into the electromagnetic chaos. Then did something unexpected. Instead of continuing to fight, the champion stopped. He stood in the center of the arena, breathing heavily, his crystalline form flickering with unstable light. His eyes met Jake's. Spoke, "You fight without honor. You fight without code. You fight like a fighting to survive." Jake said nothing. He waited. "But you fight well," continued. "Your strategy is sound. Your adaptation is real. You are not strong, but you are resourceful. I have not faced anything like you in 300 years. The warrior raised his fist. Then he did something that shocked everyone in the arena. He bowed. It was the ancient gesture of respect, was acknowledging Jake as a warrior worthy of recognition. The crowd erupted. Some cheered. Some roared in anger at what they had witnessed. But the code had been satisfied, had accepted Jake's victory. In the traditions of the Empire, that meant only one thing. The human had won. Jake did not remember collapsing. He did not remember being carried from the arena. His first clear memory after his bow was waking in a medical chamber with white walls and the smell of chemicals that made his nose burn. His body was covered in bandages. His left arm was immobilized. His ribs were wrapped so tight that breathing hurt. When he tried to sit up, pain shot through his torso like fire. He fell back onto the medical bed and closed his eyes. A voice spoke, "Do not move, your injuries are serious." Jake opened his eyes. A medical technician was standing next to him. This form was pale green and he moved with careful precision. "You have 3 cracked ribs. Your left arm has a fracture. You have deep bruising across your entire left side. One more solid blow to your ribs and you would have had internal bleeding. You would have died." "But I did not die," Jake said. His voice sounded like gravel. "No, you did not. The question is why." The door to the medical chamber opened. Emperor entered. The black crystal warrior was so large that his head nearly touched the ceiling. When he spoke, his voice filled the entire room. "You have caused chaos in my empire, human." Jake said nothing. There was nothing to say to that. "The combat specialists are arguing. Some say you violated the code. Some say you used tactics that are cowardly. Some say you manipulated the arena environment unfairly." The Emperor paused. "But the code is clear. If the opponent falls and accepts defeat, then the victor is legitimate. Accepted your victory. That means you have won fairly." Jake waited. There was more coming. "I have spent 3,000 years building the empire into what it is today. 3,000 years of perfection, of mastery. of knowing that we are the strongest, the fastest, the most advanced civilization in the galaxy. One human has shaken that certainty. The Emperor moved closer. His crystalline form seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. That makes you either the most valuable thing I have ever encountered or the most dangerous. I am neither, Jake said. I am just a human who was asked to solve a problem. I found the solution that was available to me. Exactly. The Emperor's form flickered. It might have been a laugh. You are resourceful, you adapt. You do what must be done regardless of tradition or rules. These are not qualities. We have forgotten how to be this way. Emperor turned and left without another word. The medical technician returned to checking Jake's bandages. Hours passed. Jake slept on and off, his body demanding rest that his mind did not want to give. Then, in the middle of what might have been night or day, there was a soft sound at the door. Princess entered the medical chamber. Her crystalline form was bright silver in the dim light. When she saw Jake bandaged and broken, something in her form flickered with what looked like sadness. "You are hurt," she said simply. "I will heal," Jake replied. "Humans are good at that." Moved to a chair near his bed and sat down. "I have been reviewing the sensor data from the arena. I watched every moment of your fight with. You did something remarkable. You understood better than understood himself. You saw his weakness and exploited it. But that is not what impressed me most." Jake looked at her. "What impressed you?" "You were willing to break your own body. You were willing to be hit. You were willing to suffer. Every time struck you, you absorbed the damage and kept moving. A warrior would have been destroyed mentally by that approach. We believe that damage means shame. That pain means you are doing something wrong. But you used pain as information. You kept fighting even as your body was breaking." "I had to. I could not match him any other way," Jake said. "Yes, and that is the secret that you showed us," said. "The Empire has forgotten how to fight when we are weak. We have never needed to learn that. Every warrior in our civilization has always been strong. We have never had to adapt because we have never needed to. But your people adapt because you must, because weakness does not mean the end for you." She leaned forward. "I have read about human wars, human struggles, human societies that had nothing and built empires. I have read about humans who suffered and persisted anyway. The Empire became great because we were strong. But we have stayed unchanged because strength made us believe we did not need to change." Jake listened. His body hurt too much to do anything but listen. "You have shown my father something he did not want to see," continued. "You have shown the people that strength alone is not enough. Flexibility matters. Adaptation matters. The willingness to do what must be done, even if it breaks tradition and rules, matters." "I hope that is true," Jake said, "because I do not think I can do that again. This body is not strong enough to fight another time." "You will not need to," said. "Has demanded to speak with the Emperor. In law, when a warrior bows to someone, the warrior becomes their ally. Is claiming the right to support your claim for trade access and council representation." Jake closed his eyes. When he opened them again, there were tears at the corners. He had not expected that. He had not expected to do more than acknowledge the victory. "Your people are becoming my people's friends," Jake said. "That matters." "Perhaps," said. "But more than that, you are showing the Empire that the galaxy is larger and more complex than we understood. There are civilizations out there that are young and weak, but also quick and clever. If we do not remember how to adapt, how to think beyond our traditions, then one day a civilization like yours might surpass us." Jake wanted to laugh, but his ribs would not allow it. "Your Highness, humans cannot surpass in strength or technology. The gap is too large." "Not yet," said. "But humans advance quickly. I have read your history. In 10,000 years, your species went from caves to space. 10,000 years. The Empire has existed for hundreds of thousands of years, and we have not advanced much in the last 50,000. If humans continue to learn and adapt the way you do, eventually the gap will close." She stood up. "Rest, Captain, your body needs healing, but understand something. You came to this station asking for trade and partnership. My father will grant that. But more importantly, you have shown the Empire that change is coming. Change that we must adapt to, whether we can do that. I think it depends on people like me who still remember that strength without adaptation is just rigidity." After left, Jake lay in the medical chamber and watched the stars through the small window. His body was broken, but his mission was succeeding in ways he had not imagined possible. Somewhere in the station, Emperor was making decisions that would reshape the relationship between humans and in the training grounds, was probably practicing new fighting styles, ways that were not traditional, ways that humans might teach him. The future was uncertain, but Jake had learned something that he would carry for the rest of his life. Weakness was not a final condition. It was an opportunity to learn. It was an opportunity to become something more. And now, the Empire would learn that same lesson. The Great Hall of the Empire was crowded on the day of the proclamation. Representatives from a dozen alien civilizations stood along the walls, watching as Emperor prepared to make an announcement that had not happened in 500 years. Jake stood near the front, his left arm still in a sling, his movement still stiff from his injuries. He was dressed in the formal uniform of Earth's Space Force. Marco and stood beside him, their faces serious and focused. The Emperor entered, and the entire hall fell silent. When a being of size and power moved, silence was the only appropriate response. 500 years ago, the Emperor began, his voice booming across the space, the Empire achieved a level of power that we believed was final. We believed we had reached perfection. We believed that nothing in the galaxy could challenge us. We were wrong. A murmur ran through the crowd. The alien representatives exchanged looks. This was unusual. The Empire did not admit error. The Empire did not question itself. A human came to our station, a representative of a young species from a world we did not recognize. We had no reason to believe this human would matter, but the human asked for respect. And when we tested the human responded in a way that taught us a valuable lesson. Strength without adaptation is not strength. It is stagnation. Emperor raised his arm toward Jake. The human named Captain Jake defeated our greatest warrior not through greater power, but through cleverness and willingness to break tradition. In doing so, the human showed that the galaxy values qualities beyond physical dominance. The Emperor's form flickered with light. I am declaring today that Earth's human civilization is now recognized as a full trading partner of the Empire. They are granted full council representation. They are granted access to our technical knowledge. And they are granted protection under the Covenant, which means any attack on humanity is an attack on the Empire. The hall erupted. Some cheered. Some appeared angry or disappointed, but the decision was made. The Emperor had spoken. What happened next surprised everyone, including Jake. Entered the hall. The warrior was still as magnificent as before, but now his crystalline form showed the cracks that Jake's strikes had created. Instead of trying to hide them, displayed them openly. The cracks had been sealed with a special resin, making them visible but strong. It was a mark of honor, a symbol that the warrior had survived battle and learned from it. Approached the Emperor and bowed. Then he turned to Jake and spoke words that the translator carried across the entire hall. I am champion of the Empire for 300 years. I have fought and defeated countless warriors. All of them fought with honor and skill. All of them lost because I was stronger. This human fought with something I had never encountered before. This human fought with the knowledge that strength alone is not sufficient. This human used environment, strategy, and adaptation. For 300 years, I believed I was the perfect warrior. This human has shown me that perfection without evolution is death. Extended his crystalline hand toward Jake. I request to become your ally and student. I request to learn the ways of human combat. I request to help humans and build a better future together." Jake reached out and clasped his hand. The grip was still strong, but this time it was not meant to harm. It was meant to connect. The celebration that followed lasted 3 days. The alien representatives from other civilizations stayed to witness the signing of the formal agreement. Trade officials from Earth arrived on emergency transport ships to begin negotiations. Marco was already working on plans for scientific exchanges, was discussing joint security protocols with the military commanders. On the final night of the celebration, Princess asked to meet with Jake privately. She brought him to a crystal chamber that overlooked the void of space. The stars were countless and beautiful, stretching out in every direction. "I owe you thanks," said. "You have given my empire something we desperately needed." "I did not come here planning to change your civilization," Jake replied. "I came here asking for trade." "Yes, but sometimes the most valuable gifts come wrapped as challenges," said. "My father is already meeting with the military commanders to discuss how the approach to combat needs to evolve. He is meeting with the Science Council to discuss whether our technology can be improved by incorporating human ideas. He is changing the empire because you showed him that change is possible." She looked at Jake. "But that is not why I wanted to see you. I wanted to tell you something about humanity that I have learned from your history and from watching you fight." Jake waited. "Humans are remarkable because you are weak," said. "You have no natural armor, you cannot see in the dark. You are slow compared to many predators, you are small compared to many species, and yet you have conquered your world. You have built civilizations. You have learned to make tools and weapons to overcome your limitations. You survive not because you are strong, but because you are stubborn, because you are willing to learn, because you are willing to fail and try again." She turned to face him directly. "The empire has been strong for so long that we forgot what it means to struggle. We forgot that struggle is what teaches you to adapt. Struggle is what makes you innovative. Struggle is what makes you grow." "Are you saying you want Earth and to struggle together?" Jake asked. "I am saying that I want the Empire to remember how to struggle, and I believe that partnership with humans will teach us that." Extended her hand. "Captain, I want you to stay here as Earth's ambassador to the Empire. I want you to work with me to build a civilization that combines human adaptability with strength." Jake looked at her hand. He thought about what he had been sent here to accomplish. He thought about what he had actually accomplished instead. Then he took her hand. "I accept, Your Highness." On the observation deck of the Discovery, Dr. Lisa watched through the telescopes as Jake's personal shuttle docked at the station. She had watched the entire fight. She had helped Jake plan his strategy. She had believed that humans had something valuable to offer the galaxy. But even she had not expected this. Full partnership, full integration. A human working at the highest levels of the Empire, helping to reshape an ancient civilization. She sent a message to Earth Command. "The mission is complete, but I believe we have accomplished more than was originally requested. A new era is beginning. Humanity has proven that we have value to offer the galaxy, not through strength, through cleverness, through adaptability, through the willingness to do whatever is necessary to survive and thrive." The message traveled through the vast distances of space, crossing the gap between worlds. It would reach Earth in 3 weeks. By then, the story of Jake and his victory would already be spreading across the galaxy. Young species would hear about it and understand that they did not need to be physically powerful to matter. Established civilizations would hear about it and understand that they needed to adapt or face irrelevance. But in the station, on a crystal balcony overlooking the infinite stars, Jake stood with Princess and looked out at the universe that was now open to humanity in ways it had never been before. He thought about all the humans who had struggled, all the humans who had refused to accept that their weakness meant failure, all the humans who had survived on worlds that wanted to kill them, all the humans who had built civilization from nothing. "Thank you," he whispered to the stars. And somewhere in the darkness, somewhere in the vast distances between worlds, Earth heard that gratitude and understood what it meant. Humanity had proved itself, not through power, but through persistence, through cleverness, through the will to adapt and overcome. The future was uncertain, but for the first time, humanity was facing that uncertain future as equals, as partners with the greatest power in the galaxy. And that changed everything.